The Florida Gators get a big-time commitment in my three most likely players to beat high NFL draft picks from the class of 26.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into The Portal, your source for daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I am Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making The Portal podcast your first listen wherever you get your pods, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get them. We will be here. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The Florida Gators get Izayia Williams to come into the fold for the class of 2026 from Tavares, Florida. He is one of the best players in the Sunshine State, and this has been a long and heated battle. I'm really curious to see what happens with him at the college level. So let's break down his game here in just a moment. But also, just as a note, we're also going to talk about my three most likely players to be high NFL draft picks from the class of 26 here in about 5 to 10 minutes. So Izayia Williams. This is a kid that I've seen play several times, Under Armour, 5-on-5 competitions, etc. I've seen everything with this kid, and I can tell you this, he is a unique athlete because of his length and his ability to gain leverage, the 2 L's, and also this is a young man that has burst, off the line of scrimmage, and bend. So he's got the 2 B's. If you're going to be a pass rusher, length and leverage, burst and bend, those are really prerequisites to be high level. So he's God-given in terms of his athleticism and his frame. What you cannot teach is the fact that Izayia just loves playing football. That's for him, and that's why he continually trains. He's with Trench Gorilla's 5-on-5 program out of Orlando. He does a lot of stuff in the offseason that many other elite athletes don't. That also helps him be a nationally ranked prospect. And to that point, just as a barometer here, he's a kid that's ranked in the top 100 prospects for Rivals and some other services. But one of the big things with him is, where's he going to play? Is it going to just be pass rusher? Is it going to be linebacker combination? He will certainly play special teams. He's perfect for the punt block team and the field goal block team. But I think it's interesting to see what happens with Florida's defense over this next season as he goes into his senior year at Tavares. But Izayia Williams has the ability, I think, a long-term to be an elite pass rusher. I would just play him there and maybe dabble a little bit with blitzing him as a normal linebacker. That's my take. With that being stated, I know other schools like North Carolina recruited him. I know that many other schools outside the South are after him too. Penn State, Texas, Oklahoma, but Georgia, Alabama, Florida State, Florida were probably the 4 most prominent. This is a unique scenario, though, because he was thinking about visiting North Carolina and some other places. Could he play inside backer or outside backer in a 3-4? Possibly. The frame is there. Depends on what he wants to learn and how he wants to approach it. And that is one of the points I wanted to make today in using Izayia as an example. Linebacker recruiting is extremely difficult because of how complex it is to figure out what you're going to do with coverages with your linebackers. You need guys that can absolutely fly, but you're still going against teams that have offensive linemen that weigh 320. So if you have really small linebackers that can handle helping out against a slot receiver, that's great. But if you don't have somebody with Izayya's athleticism and length, also an inside linebacker, your chances of slowing down the run are really mitigated. So he could be a kid that maybe he plays a little bit inside. Maybe he moves around for Florida. This much I do know. He is still best when attacking the line of scrimmage. We'll see where he ends up playing for the Florida Gators, but Izayia Williams is a young man that has the athleticism to play any of the spots. Again, length, leverage, burst, bend. All of those things translate to being a front 7 defender. And again, I prefer that he ends up being a pure pass rusher. I don't know how much Florida is going to play around with being a 3-man and 4-man line long-term. Most of these teams change that stuff each year because of their personnel changes. And Florida's obviously a coaching staff that has a lot of different ideas compared to the next school down the road, Florida State or Georgia or whatever. That's fine. But like at Georgia, He would have been the outside linebacker, stand up, get after it guy, because they run a 3-man line, a traditional 2-gap scheme. Everybody's going to look at him different. But I think he is a fascinating recruit. So Izayia Williams, one of the top players in Florida, which, by the way, I will be doing my countdown for the top 50 starting this weekend and next week, throughout next week. But he is a kid that's going to be in there. I guarantee you that. So Izayia Williams, congrats to him. Great young man. He's committed to the Florida Gators. Next up, we're going to talk about my 3 most likely guys to be high NFL draft picks, regardless of state, from the class of 2026. That is here on the Portal. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. If you like betting on the live options for games, this is an opportunity for you. Whether it's third quarter, a player got hot, or maybe it's the score that at halftime you think they're going to come back. Whatever it is, you can make live betting your option on FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your one shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Making it from high school to college to the NFL draft. That's what all these prospects want to do. And the 3 I'm about to give you are among several that I looked at from a consideration point of, do they have the physical talent, the measurables? That is very key, especially with the NFL draft. Length, hand size, arm strength, whatever it may be. Measurables are important. But a key ingredient for me, and it's something I've been studying more and more over the last couple of years, is attitude. And I'm not just talking about between the lines on the gridiron. It's away from the field, academically, socially. When I say socially, I'm not just talking about social media. I'm talking about, do you get in trouble? What do your coaches say about you? What do your trainers say about you? How do you interact with the media when you're doing interviews? Are you standoffish? These things are massive in evaluations. Not a little bit, they are massive. Not just mine either. I know this from talking to other people in the recruiting rankings. And then that goes even further once you get into college, because NFL teams want to utilize people that can be the face of their program. When I was growing up, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, it's changed on what it is. The people that are more flamboyant, that are more likely to end up in the police blotter, they're not as likely to be high draft picks or stick around in the NFL. Too many people have cell phones, too many things that can go wrong. So while talent is always the #1 tipping point, that shall not change. To be elite, you have to be the guy off the field that does the right things. And that's why I'm going with the following 3 players in descending order. So 3, 2, 1 here. We're going to look at it from a perspective of, I think all these guys have elite talent, and I also think that they're going to be the face of an NFL franchise at some point. The first guy that I want to mention is one that I just think he embodies the history of the quarterback position in terms of what it takes mentally, above the shoulders, from speaking with him personally last year, from seeing him play, his high school film, seeing him at Under Armour, Miami, and just seeing him in general, whether he's doing interviews, anything that happens with him, he's about as safe a pick as it gets. And that's Ryder Lyons. He's out of Folsom, California. He's a quarterback that was roughly 200 pounds, 205 last year. He was already in shape. He was a guy, when he took off his shirt, he looks like the guy that you want leading coming off the bus. But at the same time, he added another 20 pounds this offseason too. He's driven, very accurate, very mobile. I didn't realize how athletic he was till I saw him at Under Armour Miami in 2024. But he also makes passes on the run or from the pocket look very easy. This is a young man that has the athleticism that many people didn't realize, because his highlights are so good from the pocket, but you kind of forget that he can run. RPO system, traditional drop back, more balanced, kind of like Michigan does or something like that. He could play in any scheme you could imagine. Speaking of the Wolverines, they're one of the teams involved. BYU, Southern Cal, Oregon. These are some of the schools that have been mentioned, and he's in the mix with all of them, plus other institutions. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. Jared Curtis, another elite quarterback, is somebody that could end up at Oregon, that could influence Ryder Lyons. We'll see where Ryder goes. But in terms of on and off the field, for meeting him, I think he is a lock to be a very high NFL draft pick at some point. Great kid, and I hope that he has all the success in the world. Second, Jackson Cantwell. I talked about him at length yesterday on the Portal podcast. He's one of my all-time favorite recruits just to scout. Fun kid to be around. He's a mauler. He's an incredible athlete. He comes from a great family, has, ironically, Olympic bloodlines, parents. I mean, it's incredible. And he has all of that with the most humble nature you can imagine. There are very few kids that I've ever met that have anywhere close to his physical traits. He's 6'6", 6'7", out of Nixon, Missouri. Jackson Cantwell is arguably the best offensive tackle, maybe the best player in the country. And he's a kid that is just happy to do an interview as a guy that had never received an offer. That is rare. I guarantee you NFL teams will love that. And I know that college coaches do too. He's not going to be a hindrance to your program at the college level or the National Football League. He's going to make millions before he ever makes it to the NFL, but as an offensive tackle goes, he fits and embodies what you're looking for. I love his upside too, because he's still, a high school kid, and technique, while his is advanced, is something that he's going to get better at. Jackson Cantwell is maybe as good a drive blocker as I've seen in the last few years because he's so consistent with it against a bigger guy, smaller guy, outside play, screen game, whatever it is. And just for the cherry on top, he even had a tackle-eligible touchdown last year on a reception. He's just an incredible athlete. But again, off the field is what makes Jackson Cantwell a unique football player. You can't just be good anymore. You must be openly willing to deal with media, fans, and other people, because your life is no longer the same if you're an elite recruit. You will never have a normal life, ever. That's just the way it is. If you want this life, if you want to make millions from NIL, etc., you must openly deal with media and fans and carry yourself in a way that is different than other teenagers, and then the same once you get to college. I trust that Jackson Cantwell will be that guy. Last and most important, this is kind of my bet on a guy that's going to hit his ceiling. I've seen him play 3-4 times. Keisean Henderson. He's out of the Houston area, and holy cow, he is an incredible athlete. He's my current number one player in the country, and you could add several other guys into that mix. I don't think there's a definitive number one, Cantwell, etc. Right now, I've got Keisean, and the reason is he wants it. He has that chip on his shoulder while doing it in a humble way that he's going to play quarterback. He could be the number one safety. He could be the number one receiver. He could be the number one corner. He could be number one at about anything. But he's really taken to the craft of being a quarterback. That is rare. Very rare. It's one thing when you're just so gifted and you just make guys miss all over the place, and he absolutely does. But he also, this is so funny, he also does it and still can throw from all kinds of different arm angles. He's similar in a lot of ways to Ryder Lyons, but an even better athlete. And again, Ryder Lyons is a tremendous athlete. But Keisean is such a freak that he can do everything wrong on a play and not only have success, they might score. He will take a broken play and score if you rush him in the pocket. He will throw a check down when he needs to keep things ahead of the chains, just so he can get to that next play and then throw a perfect post route. He had several plays at Battle Miami where he threw between defenders, saw a guy breaking on one side, throw it to the other side of the DB because he knew where he was going to be. The progressions and the understanding of the position have really changed for him. I was surprised because most guys don't make that leap so quickly. Hats off to whoever is helping him at his high school, the trainers, the people around him. He's done a great job himself, obviously, but the quarterback position is the most complex, in my opinion, in all of sport. And Keisean Henderson has taken to that mentality that you're going to be great. At quarterback, it's about the stuff off the field more than anything else. Ryder Lyons, I think, had gotten there because he knew he was going to be a quarterback earlier. That's why I like him so much. But at the same time, Keisean, like his change of direction for a kid that's 6'3", is probably best summed up as, think of a slot receiver from Tampa or Orlando or Atlanta or something that everybody wants. That's Keisean at 6'3". But he's also got a cannon for an arm, understands quarterback projections, and can throw it down the field. And if you blitz him, you better not miss, because he'll just take that play, turn a broken play into an 80-yard touchdown. He is absolutely elite, and he's committed to the Houston Cougars. We'll see if he ends up there, but incredible football player. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Locked On edition of the Portal. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're on YouTube. We are on Apple. We are on Spotify. I just started a channel on TikTok. We are definitely on X. We're on Instagram here pretty soon too. I got that one coming. We are across the platforms here. We're going to be here every day, multiple podcasts, even on the weekend, the Portal. And especially if you like watching highlight videos, make sure you check out the Portal podcast on YouTube, because my shorts page, I have a gazillion highlights from Under Armour camp, 7-on-7, and everything else. We are going to be here each and every day on the Portal podcast. Everybody have a good one. I'll see you again soon.